Good morning, everybody. This is Susan Cornelius. I see that we've got a few participants, and I suspect we're going to have a few joining us. Please put yourself on mute. What we're going to be doing is using chat to ask questions. So as I'm speaking, if you have any questions, go to chat in Zoom, write your question down, and when we're done, at the end of 15 minutes of our boot camp, we'll take some time answering the questions. Also at 10:30, I'm going to be starting individual meetings with individuals who have signed up to have a coaching session for about 30 minutes. So I look forward to all of you. I see that Stephen Takich is in our group, and I'd like to say a special shout out to him, because without Stephen and his support, I don't think I'd be sitting here talking to you. My name is Susan Cornelius. I have to give voice to the fact that these are really challenging times. We're going to talk today about communicating the value of what it is that you're doing during challenging times. And yes, this is a difficult thing to do, but I honestly believe that what we have to do to start up a company is no different now than what we would have to do before we learned of the pandemic and we found ourselves smack dab in the middle of it. Have you ever heard about a new startup closing down? Did you ever wonder why somebody with a super innovative idea just does not make it? Well, it's probably because a ton of effort was put into the technology and building the product, but not asking and answering these three questions: what, so what, therefore. I am the founder and principal of Accelerate to Solutions, and what my colleagues like to call the chief instigator. Cecilia, who knows me well, knows that I'm the chief instigator, so does Stephen. I've worked with over 477 startups, helping them manage their beginnings. And what I'm working with them on is try to create a foundation for success. Yes, the product's in there, but how it is they know what their customers are wanting, how they know what their customers want, their assumptions, all those things. We have to challenge all of that. So it's a process using our head, our heart, and our brains. I've worked over a period of 9 months with most of the startups that I work with. And the companies that I mentor actually are ready to launch their product and talk to the market and start selling at the end of those 9 months. So what I practice is a mentor-driven model, and that's why I'm a volunteer at the UNM Science Technology Corporation in the I-Corps program, and also here at UNM-Valencia. Today, I plan to try to inspire you to join me in this search, even though it's now of finding what the value is of your product. We're going to answer the question, what, so what, and therefore. Now, it's a little unusual for me to be talking on Zoom, and a little unusual for me not to be able to see you, but we're going to do the best we can and have some fun doing it. Okay? Everybody's on board. Good. And I got to get this slide changed. So what's a boot camp? I used to be a consultant with the United States Marine Corps. I actually reported to the Commandant of the Marine Corps, and I learned a lot from the sergeants and the privates and the corporals. Basically, boot camp is a systematic experience. It takes you step by step by step through what you need to know, and you practice it enough times so that your thinking comes not automatically without thinking, but it comes in a very successful way. That's what we're going to do with these boot camps. At the end of this boot camp, as we work together in individual sessions, I'm going to be asking you quite a few questions. You're going to be asking me quite a few questions, and I hope to answer your questions in this unprecedented situation that we're in. I can tell you with confidence that how we deliver our products and services is no different than it was before. It takes heart, passion, commitment, determination, morality, and ethics. Notice what I said, morality and ethics and decision-making. It takes a willingness to move forward, not to sit back and say, I can't do this now. You can, and you've got the time to plan and to talk to customers. What it really takes to be successful is you. This is one of my favorite pieces. If you can see the little guy down there in the corner, he's going, I got a great idea. What is your innovative product? What is your service? What is your technology? I'm sure you've been talking about it a lot, and/or you've got an idea that you want to get started. Do you know who cares about what it is that you want to do? Our families love to listen to us, and sometimes our grandmothers can be the most critical and give us the best advice. Why are we doing it? Do we really know? Is it something that comes from inside here? Or is it something that we've thought of that we think we can make some money of? Or is it a whole bunch of things? Why are we doing what we're doing? But then there's a second part. And unfortunately, one of the most important parts in getting your product to market, because it starts with you and it ends with what your customer wants. Why does your customer want what you want to do? Do you know that? How do you know? Have you actually talked to them? The customer has a tremendous impact on what it is that we do. What features do they require? How must your product interface with what they've already got? Most of us are thinking to ourselves that we're in a disruptive market. We're creating something that doesn't exist, period. But your customer needs to know why they would want to replace what it is they're doing with what it is they are getting from you. So they're really interested about the interface between your product and your service and them. And then after they're done with all of that, then they worry about cost. As a matter of fact, big corporations, in deciding how a proposal is going to be met and whether or not they're going to do it, do a separate sheet with the costs on it, because the client typically looks at what it can do and then looks at the cost. So look at these questions on the slide, and if you've got a piece of paper or a pencil or pen available, or another computer, whatever you've got to your side so you can take notes while we're doing this, try very hard to answer these three questions. What is your innovative product or service or technology? One sentence, not asking for a whole description, just one sentence. So write that down. Who cares about what you're doing? Does the market care about what you're doing? Does your customer care about what you're doing? Who do you know that cares about what you're doing? And I don't mean about, we all care about one another, hopefully. I mean the product or service or technology. What are the reasons that they're caring about it? Just jot down some notes. And if you've got stickies, write on the stickies. If you use stickies on another computer like I do all the time, write it on your electronic stickies. And then how do you know? These are important questions to answer. And every day that you're working, as you learn about your product and where it sits in the market, I want you to ask these three questions. What's your innovative product, service, technology? Who cares? Why? How do you know? I've repeated it 3 times, so it's important. These are the things that a potential investor is going to ask you. I always tell people about a story about being in a parking lot outside a big box store with a young entrepreneur that I was talking to. And a former colleague of mine walked up and said, "Hey, Susan, what you up to?" Turned around and looked at the young man standing next to me and said, "I bet this is one of your entrepreneurs." And I said, "Yes, it is." He says, "What are you doing?" And immediately Eddie started pitching him. Man, he pitched him. At the end of that, he turned around and looked at me. "I've got 2 things going. I like this kid's heart and commitment and passion. I like the fact he's working with you. I want to sit down and talk with you. I think I've got about 900,000. Now, that's only happened 1 time, but it does happen. So we have to be willing to be able to say, this is our innovative product, service, or technology. Who cares, why, and how do you know? It becomes part of what we call the pitch. So let's go on to the next slide. How many of you know who this woman is over there in the corner? Yeah, we've got our names in front of it, but let me see if I can move her over. No, can't. This is a PDF. This is Dr. Sally Ride. She was the first woman to go into space on the space shuttle. She was a scientist, PhD in astronomy and physics, and she boarded the space shuttle to go up, come back down, become a professor of astronomy and physics at the University of California, San Diego, where I used to be the startup entrepreneur for their healthcare system. She was absolutely fantastic, and she decided to start a company. She decided she wanted to see more marginalized populations involved in STEAM, science, technology, engineering, art, and math. She went around and she talked to people and said, "I think I have face recognition. I think I have name recognition. I think I can inspire people. I'm already doing," she was doing the early versions of TED Talks. She said, "But actually, what do you think I should be delivering? Is it inspiration? Is it teaching products?" After talking with everybody, she realized it was inspiration, teaching products, and networking like crazy through colleges, universities, the Department of Education to convince them that there needed to be more participation in STEAM. She ended up creating, of all things, a for-profit, not a nonprofit, because she discovered that that corporate structure was going to allow her to raise as much money as she possibly could so that she could also fund programs in schools. That is counterintuitive. It represents a major pivot that we made when we were working together. I've got to tell you, she was a very humble person. My father designed the space shuttle. She flew on it. He wanted to meet her. She wanted to meet him. And they both said, "Why would they want to meet me?" So there's a humble nature behind some of these most successful entrepreneurs. Yes, they know who they are. And yes, they can tell you. And yes, they're strong. Bill Gates is one of them. But there's an ability to be humble behind all of it. So what do these humble people work on? These are the questions they've got to answer. What's the value proposition? I'm giving you a lot of questions. So the what that we were looking at, therefore, so what that we were looking at, that's the beginning of the value proposition. What is the value of what I'm doing to the customer? Do you know your market segments? I can guarantee you after we work together, we're going to pivot on market segments. We found some really interesting things in working with products. Your product description. The product description that I'm talking about is not this technical product description that's typically sent out as part of a prospectus to investors. Yes, you're going to need that at some point, but this is actually a flow chart. It's a story. It's a use story. It shows what the typical customer does to do what they're doing. Let's use a good example. Let's say you're a solar company, you sell solar power, and you want to reduce expenses in the fields that you're managing. Would you be interested in a radiance or a radiance device that sat in the middle of the field and told you when clouds were coming at you, when you needed to either buy and trade stocks to get more power or simply switch to another grid so you could get more power for your customers in the area? Bet you didn't know it worked that way, but it does. So explaining to a customer, let's say the person who produces the power and owns the field, how this works requires a flow chart that shows the device in the field, the data that it can give, how it interacts with their existing information systems and applications, and how it is they can interpret the data. Or actually, in this case, in this device, it just gives them the data that they need. They set the parameters and out it comes. And they know what kind of decision they have to make. Trade, buy, produce themselves, switch grids. So when we do our pitches, it's that simple, like I just said about a device and how it works. And when we talk to our customers, we bring our pitch along with us. So value proposition, market segments, product description, pitch, customers and customer interviews. We're going to work on that in detail in April in an hour-long workshop that's going to be on Zoom. And if you take a look at nmlobalrainforest.edu, you'll see the announcement for that program in April. Today, we're going to cover the surface of most of this, but what we're going to talk about is the pitch. Hope you're still with me. Are you with me? I hope so. So here is the value proposition. Okay, same questions I asked before. Remember this boot camp, we're going to repeat it. What, so what, therefore. What is your innovative idea in 20 seconds? Okay, look at the screen. I can't hear you. Can you mumble your innovative idea in 20 seconds? Okay, that's a little less than 20 seconds, but that was 20 seconds. So what? What will the customer be able to achieve that they can't currently achieve? Now, you're going to say what your assumptions are right now about what they can't currently achieve because they don't have your product or service. Let's say you have a grandmother that you've been working for years with to perfect the best, and I'm going to use what I love, fresh, sweet corn tamales in the world. Your specialty, because of where she's from, are the kind that have the pineapple and raisins and coconut in them, and they're served for breakfast with powdered sugar or maple syrup on top. And you know, because you've heard for years, that her tamales are better than anybody's. The masa is perfect. The insides are perfect. Everything about it's perfect. And you're thinking of getting yourself a truck and planting that near UNM so that students there can appreciate what it is that she creates. What can the customer achieve now that they cannot currently achieve? What's the answer to that question for those tamales and that truck for your family? Therefore, what difference will your innovation make to the customer, to the market, to the people, to the world? Some very, very famous trucks have made it to restaurants. When I was a kid, one of them made it to a restaurant called Cinco de Mayo in Los Angeles. And my father used to work with the boxers, and we would go there as little kids, and I would listen to him and the entrepreneur of this particular restaurant talking about business, how business was done. And furthermore, I would eat some of the most incredible food I've ever had in my entire life. And I mean, it was incredible. And it started with a truck. What the difference did it make? Family. The presence of family in the restaurant. The way the restaurant was kept clean. The way it looked like his mother's kitchen. And to the people who traveled miles to go there, it was being greeted at the door by their name. It was an incredible place to go. So what difference did it make? We felt like we were at home, even though we were eating out, and we saw friends and we walked around from table to table. And I was just a little girl, and everybody picked me up and gave me hugs, and I was safe. So when you think about what difference your scientific innovation is going to make, your device, such as a solar device, what difference will it make? But then there's that last question. How do you know? Parts of the pitch. One of the things that's part of doing a customer interview, and we'll take a look at that in just a minute, is that there's a pitch that you do. Now, we don't speak English. I've actually made a lexicology, a glossary of words that people like me use. And it's really interesting when you're working across culture to explain to somebody what a pitch is. And I've worked with students from Africa and from Asia. And let me tell you, every once in a while, the way we speak English dumbfounds everybody who's trying to speak English. So what we begin with when we do a pitch is the pain or the need. A lot of pitch guidelines, and even one that I used to use, say state your name, title, and company name. Start with the problem. It begins like this. At the beginning, I said to you, have you ever wondered why it is a company that looks like it should be successful with an incredible tech product, can't succeed? After a year and a half, they disappear. So one of the reasons why is they're not going at the need from the point of view of the potential customers. They're going from the point of view that I can do this and I really think it's great. So begin with the problem from the point of view of your potential customer, from the potential of my customers. They don't want to fail. And they want to know that I know that that happens and what it is that I do to keep that from happening. I can't keep them from doing anything. All I can do is give them a set of skills and then mentor them. State your name, title, and company name. I tell everybody I'm founder and principal of Accelerate to Solutions, and my colleagues call me the chief instigator, and that's the truth. I asked a bunch of them that I work with that I refer people to. I said, what would you call me? I don't want to be the CEO. It's a small company and I don't need to be a CEO. And they looked at me and they said, chief instigator. And I started laughing like crazy because they were right on. Because I work with companies to instigate forward movement, change, definition of product, completion of prototype, and getting it out there to market and figuring out what the best way is to do it. The next thing you do is you describe how you're going to do it better, cheaper, or faster. In the case of the device that I was talking about, it's better and faster. I'm not sure at this point whether it's going to be cheaper. We think so, but better, cheaper, or faster. I can provide tamales for your whole family at a price that is broken down and less expensive than if you buy them individually. I can provide a solar device for your field that replaces what you're currently doing, which is in the hundreds of thousands, with something that's going to cost you about $60,000. How big is the market? How many people have this problem and would be willing to buy your product or service? This is where you say, I've talked with customers, and in an exploration of some 100 customers, we'd like to see between 25 and 100, okay? We can say this is what they think. Now, I'm going to give you a warning about this question and the next question, so let's go to the next question. The revenue model is simply product sales. The number of times in working with people that they've gone to various databases, world market databases, to take a look at what is the market for my particular kind of a device. And they've come back and said to me, oh my gosh, Susan, it's 3.5 billion. What should I do? I was listening to somebody and they said, take 1%. There's no way you're going to make $35 million in your first year. I do know of one company that did, but that's the upper half of the top 1%. It's often very important to remember that you want to cover your costs. So there's revenues, and of what's remaining left over, that's your after costs, is your profit. And that is what you save, and you sometimes have to save it to pay people who put in investments in your company, depending on the term sheet you did with them. But that profit isn't necessarily going to take you as high as you want to go. Can a tech product go to $1 million in the first year? Yeah, I've seen them happen between 1 and 5 million in the first year. So keep in mind, your revenue model is quite simply the product, what it costs, the cost of labor, cost of shipping, cost of where it is you're located, what you have to pay people, and then you put that together and you come up with a cost for the product. And then you say, how am I going to get it out to them? How am I going to teach them how to use it? What do they need in order to be able to use it? And that is an important question you are going to ask during your interview sessions. The team's critical. We've got you. And you're saying to yourself, what experience do I have? Well, first of all, you're probably got an internship somewhere if you're a student. If you're a community member, you've been working at a job and you've shown passion. Remember, we said integrity, morality, ethics, heart, commitment, intelligence, decision-making, all the way throughout your career. And you've still got those things. They don't go away because you've never done this before. And remember, I've done it about 477 times, and I still feel nervous the first time working with a company because it's, wow, we've got to figure out what's critical to get this company to be successful in a very short period of time, typically 10 to 12 weeks. Location may be important. Real estate, it's definitely, if you're opening up a real estate firm or you're opening up an insurance firm, location, but insurance can be sold online, so can real estate with applications. Location can be very important, such as a location next to a national lab in Los Alamos, Albuquerque, or in the southern part of the state near the test sites. Your team is what's going to complete the deal. Remember, I'm standing in a parking lot outside of a big box store. Forgot to tell you it was 116 degrees. And my colleague listens to the young man standing next to me and goes, I want to talk with you guys again. And he says, this is what I got. He'd already made a decision in 10 minutes what he was going to do. It was something that was in his toolbox and he wanted to be involved. The last part of your pitch is be sure to tell your listeners what you already put into the product and what you need it for. Now, I've taken 5 minutes to do this, and you get to say this in 90 seconds. It won't be the only pitch you ever write. I think I've been involved, I was keeping track of them, about 1,000. And it won't be the only time you do it. It won't be the only time you practice it. And it won't be the only time that you change it, because these things change depending upon who it is you're talking to. You're either pitching them to ask them to stay in a relationship with you while you develop your prototype. You're pitching to sell. You're pitching to investors. So this 90 seconds, the first parts of it, as you improve, as you change, are going to have different information in them, and the ending's going to change. For those with whom I'm meeting today, they're going to be individual sessions. We can work on your pitch if you want to. For all of you that are listening to this, if you would email me a video of your 90-second pitch, by the end of the day, March 22nd, you're 26, you're going, oh my goodness, that's not enough time for me to write and practice. And I'm not even sure about my idea. Give it a try. I want to get to know you. You can send it to me on email with a brief video, 90 seconds, and I will time it. And I will give you some feedback back on email. For those of you that I'm actually meeting with today, starting with Edwin, I will be talking with you in that session. You're going to practice a lot of times. I think a bunch of you are participating in the UNM pitch contest. There's prizes of close to $5,000 for that. And it's going to be done online because we can't do it at bow and arrow because of the current situation and challenges we have. But it will be done online, so you can look for more information on that. Now that I've said all this stuff, is doing a pitch a big deal? No, it's something that should slip off your tongue as easily as if you were asking for an ice cream cone at Baskin & Robbins, because you're like me, you order the same thing over and over again. But do you have one or more? Like I said, I think I've done about 1,000. If you're meeting with me today, we can formally or informally practice your pitch. This is one of the tools that I love to give people. There's a little meme of me over there in the corner, so you remember what I look like. This is how to plan your interviews, and it's backwards. If you go down to the right, go to the right column, down the bottom where it says introduction. This walks you through the basic areas that you want to cover. But in the case of the solar product I told you about, there would be a need to ask, what are you currently doing to meet the need of controlling the grid, making the decision to buy or trade energy, or to switch power in from another grid? What are you currently doing would have to be in there. So let's look at question number 3. What are you using right now? Ask them about the competitors that they're using. One of my favorite things in working with entrepreneurs is they typically don't like what their competitors have come up with. Their food's no good, their technology is no good, the science isn't what it should be. That's not as important as understanding what is your competitor doing. Because during the interview, they're going to ask you, do you know who your competitors are? And you want to be able to answer knowledgeably. So there's some market research out there. Some of us truly come up with first-time things. I can remember my husband and I designing what's called a coupler for a particle accelerator. Why do you do that? You're creating signal out of the end of it. We've gone from building particle accelerators that are half a mile long to ones that fit on a dining room table. But the point is, the coupler allows it to take more advantage of the beam and create a bigger signal. What do we use signal in? Well, we use signal in our cell phones. And we have a signal that goes to the CDA chip up here. We use them for other purposes. It's called directed energy. And sitting there with a group of people and having to say to them, nobody else has got this. And them looking at us telling us, it can't work. We've tried it. And it's 23 of us and we can't make it work. And we looked at one another and said, well, we made it work. So yes, you can be first of your kind in the market and you can take pride in that. But you're also asking what features do they want? What do they want to be able to do? One of the things they asked us is, can we put that coupler, this tubey thing that looked like a German Claymore from World War II, can we put it in an array and take more advantage of the beam? And the answer to that was yes. So summarize over there and see what you heard. Then you ask them, did I miss anything? Any questions I missed asking you or any points we didn't cover? Because they'll tell you, they're helping you. State your 90-second pitch. Ask them for feedback on your pitch. And then you're asking them, wondering, do you have 2 or more additional customers I might be able to talk to? That's important. For those of you who are wondering how you do this in this day and time, one of the finest people I had a chance to work with through the ICAR program is, and they're all very fine, is a PhD candidate by the name of Mustafa Pesokan. And he had developed a way of doping fiber optic cables for ensuring that signal didn't break in transatlantic around the globe telephone calls. He had to talk to certain companies and he realized he had a bunch of business cards from all the trade shows he's been to with his professor, listing all of the, talking about what they were doing and presenting white papers and posters. They hadn't built anything yet. And he went to LinkedIn, he wrote a pitch letter to all of them thinking, oh my God, nobody's gonna call me back. Out of 100 pitch letters, he got 60 telephone calls and emails back. They were really, really interested. And he talked to people globally. He talked to people in Canada. He talked to people in the Middle East. He talked to people in South America. So he really talked to people all over the place. And if one of the things I want to share with you is if you don't have a LinkedIn account, please get one. This particular presentation is going to be up by the close of business tomorrow on UNM-Rainforest.edu. And you'll be able to get your hands on it. You'll also be able to see it live. So both the presentation and whatever, you'll see my contact information on there. And you can contact me and talk to me about what you're thinking of doing, okay? You can set up 30 minutes and do it if you don't have an appointment today. So the last part of all of this is you summarize your goals. This is your timeline. May I send you updates? Again, thank you. And then you go back to your office and you write them a thank you note. Some people like to receive written thank you notes. Other people like emails. Talking with Erwin Jacobs, founder of Qualcomm. What did his company do? The CDMA chip in all the cell phones in the world. 20,000 employees globally. I sent him a handwritten note. As a result of that handwritten note, I ended up being on the board of High Tech High with Bill Gates, Erwin Jacobs, and a whole bunch of other people. It stunned me. It was the door that opened that said, whoops, you can do this. It was in early 1992. So sometimes those written thank you notes are really, really appreciated. And whenever he wrote me a note to say thank you, he wrote it out. Other entrepreneurs that I work with, email, Susan, don't worry. Victor Huang, the rainforest guy, Twitter. That's what we do. So you're going to need to kind of maybe figure out a little bit about your client and the potential customer you're talking to, but always send a thank you note. We're on our last slide. So you can relocate this 15-minute boot camp by the end of the day, Thursday, March 26th. I goofed when I put the URL up there. It's nmrainforest.edu, not .com. Good grief. There will be another boot camp and continued individual meetings in April for Valencia campus, but in between we can communicate. Like I've said, send me your 60-second pitch by the end of the day tomorrow, which is March 26th. I'll take a look at it and I'll give you some feedback and maybe we can meet again on Zoom, okay? I'm meeting many of you today via Zoom for a 30-minute conversation after this is over with. And there's my email address, scornelius@ssolutions.cc. It really is .cc. And if you're wondering about that, I've always been an early adopter of technology. And when the internet became readily available to us oops, I just turned this off and you're seeing the wrong thing. We want to do slideshow from current slide. when the internet first became available, those of us who are doing engineering and science and innovation, .cc was CompuServe, so we all had .cc. And we've kept it all this time because it shows how long we've been in this business. So we can set up 30 minutes and others can join you. When we do that, we ask for 6 feet of separation if you're in the same room, unless you're actually living together and you're sharing the space. But others may join you. We can do up to 3 people, and everybody can log into the same spot. So Cecilia, are you there? Are we ready for some questions?
Yeah, I'm here, Susan. We don't have any questions right now for you specifically, but if anyone has questions, feel free to type them in the chat room right now, and then I can voice them to Susan, and she can answer them. Or if you want to email her your questions, her email address is available too as well. So I'll wait to see if anyone sends some questions, and if not, we can exit out of this and then go into the office hours, which is a separate Zoom link.
Okay. Well, my 15 minutes took too long. I apologize for that, you guys.
Okay, there's one question. Will we make our slides available? Yes, they will be available on UNM-Rainforest.com. So you actually had the URL correct on your slide, Susan. It's UNM-Rainforest.com, not
It is UNM-Rainforest.com. Okay, how about that? I was looking at it.
The slides will be available on that website, and then this presentation, the recording, will also be available.
Looks like we're up there.
Steven says, thank you, Susan. I appreciated your boot camp today. I will encourage my students to send their pitch to you for feedback.
Thank you very much, Stephen. I'm more than happy to help out, and I want to do this in a timely fashion, so that's why I'm asking him for close of business or close of whenever business is for you. Around here, it's been midnight. We've been working all the way through on the various things for various companies. This is a good time to think your way through a lot of this stuff, and it's also a good time, believe it or not, to contact people, talk to them on Zoom, send them messages through LinkedIn. If you're not on LinkedIn, please get on LinkedIn. It's going to help you get a job at some point. But also in terms of what we're doing when you start talking to people, they're going to look at that. Whenever I talk to people, if they don't already know me, they go to LinkedIn to see what it says. You want to connect with me on LinkedIn, please do. I'm more than happy to link up with you.